This conference will now be recorded.
And thoughts would be worse.
Yeah.
Surprisingly easy.
When did they close the kiosk? See me? Yeah.
I'll come see. We'll call a meeting to order. Would everyone please join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
But that's what it's by.
Welcome, everyone. First order of business will be to approve the agenda. Bruce, do we have any changes?
The only change, Mr. Chairman, would be if you want to consider House Continuing Resolution 6010 pertaining to a summer study regarding the Black Hills. I don't know if you wanted to take any action on that. If you wanted to, you should probably add it to the agenda now as opposed to just leaving it for items from the commission.
I would like to.
Approve the agenda with House Bill 6010 added.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, look for a motion to approve our amended agenda.
That was it.
That was it? Okay, we're done. Do we have any conflicts? All over the board today. No conflicts. How about approval of our meeting minutes from January 28th?
So moved to
Second.
approve.
Okay, motion is second for approval. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Bills, any questions on the bills? Might have been answered.
Mine been answered.
Mine too. Enough to make you choke.
Move to approve the bill as presented.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of the past bills, or the bills. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Ms. Brenda, you have some personnel for us today?
I do. Just a cleanup item. Back in July of 24, we made a motion to approve the per diem for the medical doctor at $152 per pay period to be reviewed at the beginning of 2025. I missed it. It's my mistake. I just need to have a motion to effective December 29th, 24 to approve that per diem for $152 for 2025.
So
Nothing's changed. I just forgot to run the
Okay.
motion through at that January meeting.
Okay, we have a
Thank
motion
you.
is second for approval. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you for that. Again, I apologize. I have a couple of personnel requests. One is for Robert Witherspoon. He's a step raise going to a dispatcher 2, grade 3, base pay at $26.61 effective on 2/9. Laura Kidd is a new hire, dispatch 1, grade 1, base pay at $24.08 effective 2/11. And Melvin Gardner, new hire, is a correction officer 1, grade 3, base pay at $25.05 effective 2/24.
They have all resided outside of Orange County. Where are they located?
Witherspoon lives in Newell, Kidd lives in Belle Fourche, and Gardner lives in Rapid City. Yep.
Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Motion to approve all three
Service is high.
personnel requests.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Okay, the request I have is from Deb Tritle. Deb Tritle is also here if you have any questions. Just asking a request per our personnel manual. You can extend their vacation cap. They want to do Sally Atkinson and Carleen Brownlow not to exceed 265. The max is 240. And then Megan Schmidt not to exceed 192 hours, and the max there is 180. And then would expire on April 1st, according to Deb's letter. You read that.
Due to all the extra work
Yes,
that's being
yes.
done. I think that's reasonable.
Yep, I'll move to approve those changes for those extensions.
Thank
you. It's there.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
Regretfully, in your packet also is a letter of resignation submitted by Jesse Ketzer. I guess it speaks for itself. It'd be effective August 22nd of this year. I think he's got an opportunity to go work at the VA in Sturgis. So it's with regret that he submits this. So we'll have to go be advertising here at some point for a new veteran service officer.
But he'll be with us till August, right?
Yes.
Okay. I guess we'll just keep that in mind. What else for personnel?
That's all I have for personnel.
All right, the supervisory medical doctor. We have a travel request.
I do. Travel request is for Jeff Schroeder to attend the International Code Council Education Institute Continuing Education in Loveland, Colorado from March 2nd to the 7th, and to allow a travel advance. Remember him. So.
I think it's mandatory training, I believe.
What's your pleasure on it?
You signed his travel and training agreement.
He did.
I believe so, yes.
Oh, there it is.
Sorry.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Auditor's account with the treasurer, Ms. Brenda.
Thank you. This is as of January 31st, 2025. Total amount of deposits in the bank is $25,897,812.52. Included in that total is the bank balance of $24,821,342.06. Money market, $1,076,470.46. Total amount of cash is $1,350. Total amount of checks and drafts in the treasurer's possession not exceeding 3 days is $190,261.54. And the cash, $7,621.05. Petty cash, $2,725. For a total of $26,099,770.11.
Move we approve the auditor's account with the treasurer.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, abatement, couple of them, I think.
Yes.
And there's Brett.
Good morning, Ms. Brett.
Good morning. First one that I want to look at is the Frank Jacobs one. I went through the city of Spearfish already. And what this was, you can, just getting used to the new form, so need a few more comments. But we had one of the appraisers had gone to this place for a new residence and had put a basement on, left a note saying that we put a basement on. They never called, but it really wasn't. And she confirmed this. So we're just taking off the basement finish, not the basement, the basement finish. It wasn't actually finished. So that would be the $43,000 in value that we would be abating and giving back for that.
I'll move we approve the request for abatement.
Okay, I'll second it. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, the next abatement, actually the owner is here and the appraiser that works on it because it is a little bit of a different situation. So we're going to be coming in to answer questions. So. So this is a residence in Apple Springs. And I think I'm just going to have the owner and the appraiser explain all this because it's in the property's under litigation, it's not livable, and they're asking for abatement on a lot of the value because
Okay.
they're gonna have to, yeah.
Would
Let's
you
have you
guys like
explain
to
it. Oh,
Come
please.
forward and you have to please tell us your name and address
Oh.
for the record, please.
Well, my name's Debbie Meredith. My husband couldn't get off work.
Okay. What's your address?
20714 Rendezvous Court. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be.
I'm like,
Pretty lax.
boy, okay. 20714 Rendezvous Court is the house. That's not where we're
Okay.
staying, but. So
Where,
I don't know where to begin.
Would you like me to kind of just start? I can support. Okay.
Okay.
So they've been building the house since 2022.
Well, beginning of 2022, basically.
Okay. And so we went out for an inspection and it was underway. 2023 went out for an inspection, and that's the year that they were able to contact me with the our door knocker. And that's when she started talking to us about what was happening with the house. But they had some progress with a newer contractor. But then so they've had a problem with the first contractor and a problem with the second contractor. And so when we came through, we appraised it as it would have been during prior to November 1st of 2023. And then that year she came in for an appeal just because it wasn't progressing from there. But there was still hope that maybe if they kept pressure on the contractor that they would do right. But since that appeal, nothing's gone better. The house still leaks water from the north side of the house, and how they put the dirt up and they didn't put drainage in properly. The house is not fully enclosed, so it's been getting weather into it. And there's a series of other problems, but the number one thing is it's never been certified by our planning and zoning inspector, and he can't do it because now it's got mold growing up the backside of the small basement space that they created back there. And she has more details but from last March forward, they've not been able to work on it, and their lawyer advised that they stop working on it because of what's happening.
you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, pretty much we had a home inspection done in January, and then we had a follow-up one in November, and like the first one was 57 pages of what was wrong with the home. We've had 3 contractors come in to give us an estimate on what it would take to repair it, and all 3 have said that it has to come down.
So you haven't occupied it at all yet?
No,
Okay.
it's not. And I mean, I can leave, this is the second report from the second, I don't know.
What is the recommendation from
Yeah.
your office?
The recommendation is that, I mean, this is a special situation when it's under litigation and all these circumstances. It's not livable. We had put the value to basically a shed value to say, yeah, there's something there, but it sounds like it has to be replaced. So, I mean, that is not actually going to be there. They're going to replace the whole building. So we're thinking we put a shed value on it for the next year.
Okay.
She's asking basically for that to happen for the year before. because it's been the same.
And what is your recommendation for that? To follow what's on here, or do you have something?
No, to follow what's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'll
that would be the value we're gonna go in with forward.
I'll make a motion that we approve the abatement as it's presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to approve the abatement. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And we all certainly hope you get
Okay.
Yeah.
things rectified sooner than later.
Can I ask I just wanted to ask, and I don't know if you gentlemen can tell me, but, so since the contractor didn't get any inspections done with the county, is that fraudulent within the county?
I guess I'd have to look into it. They're required to have a certain number of inspections, right? And so I don't know the status of what they've done and what they haven't done. And of course, the county inspections aren't going to quality necessarily. They're going to meet a certain minimum standard, right? And so, I mean, I don't know exactly what your question is, but the county building inspections don't guarantee that it's going to be at a certain standard. You can have a house that is not very nice that meets the basic requirements. Does that make sense to you? So, but
So,
I can only speak in generalities.
okay, so he's done this before in the
county.
state of Colorado. In their county, the county pressed charges against him because he did the same thing, never got inspections. He told us inspections were passing with flying colors because we're like, there's backwards trusses that didn't get repaired. There's things here that you haven't done. And so that was just my question. I didn't know with the state of Colorado. I'm sorry, state of South Dakota or Lawrence County. And my other question is, so our lawyer, because the bank wants to foreclose, and I know the bank wants to foreclose. Our lawyer suggests us not pay taxes. And I'm like, I don't want to create a bigger mess. But he's saying that they would have to be liable for the taxes if they foreclose. But then they're saying we could get back the property in an auction, pay the discrepancies that they did not recoup out of a $350,000 loan that's left, which we've never missed a payment on. And my thing is in the end then, do we have interest on these taxes?
I think you're doing the right thing by paying the minimal taxes that we've agreed to today to.
Okay, that's what we're like. That makes it really strange. And I didn't know if the state of Wyoming has, if you don't pay your taxes, the bank can't sell it. Did I say that backwards?
The sheriff said that you could definitely come and talk to him about this, that he would be able to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good luck going
Well,
forward.
sorry. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
2025 4-H agreement.
Is there one more thing? Can we vote these both of them?
We got him.
Okay, I'm sorry. So yes, for your consideration is a 2025 MOU with for 4-H. It's late this year. I think there was a discrepancy with the last gal that quit, and so we had to track it down, but we did get it. This is just the signature page. We did look at last year's agreement and this year's agreement to see what the difference in value is. I think it's gone up $325 from last year.
11,000, something like that.
It was 11,200 last year, 11,525 this year. So we're looking for authorization of the chairman sign.
So moved.
Please.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. All those in
So I have a
favor-
question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
So is it, they're changing the designation of the position, or are we still gonna have a person in Butte County, or is this
We're
moving
still
around?
gonna have a person, There's two people that are interested now. After this gal quit, she moved to Rapid City, her and her husband were gonna come up here, but I guess she got a better job along the way.
Yep. So we're still gonna have a 4-H educator,
Yeah.
just a different title. Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion before us will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, county commissioner spring workshop, is that just a reminder, Bruce?
Just a brief follow-up, I would please like to know if you're going to attend by next meeting so that I can submit for payment at the first meeting in March. Right now I have Commissioner Ewing, Jennings, and Tisdale planning to attend. And I'll make room reservations. The block of rooms doesn't open until March 7th. So just please let me know by the next meeting. Yeah, that's.
All right. We've got a public hearing here in 5 minutes, Sheriff. It's your time, sir. I don't know how much time you'll need, but we may have to stop and do our public hearing real quick.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Last meeting, I made mention of our IT director, Greg Diaz, and his staff's significant contribution to the effort to move into the new facility. And I'd start my quick presentation for you today and recognize Tim and his staff. There's an awful lot of things that they have to do, and they have been beyond receptive. They're right there on the spot helping us at every step of the way. So the part that we are entering into now, or the season that we're entering into now, is kind of a methodical migration up to the new facility. We anticipate moving in Friday, I think the 28th.
Oh.
At 5 o'clock, we'll start moving our staff up there, and in the hopes of being ready to go Monday morning on the 3rd. So what we are doing presently is creating punch lists for those things that need to be corrected before we move in. And our commissioning agent is busy at work. He'll be here a good portion of this week, ensuring that HVAC and those systems are functioning as they should. So that's what I have. Things are still going well. It's going to be tight to try to get in by the 3rd, but as of this moment, nobody's told me we're not going to make it.
Mr. Chairman, Sheriff, I was talking to Tim yesterday, and he said that the commissioning agent was money very well spent. And from what I have observed, that's the case. But Tim was very impressed with the level of detail that that gentleman's undertaken. Right?
Yeah, I would echo that. I spent some time with him last night, going over some details, and it's a skill set that none of us have. It was a wise decision on behalf of the board to hire him, and I'm very grateful that he's up there on our behalf.
Mr. Clendenden.
Is all testing of all electrical and all that going well?
It is. We need things to be near perfect in order to hit that March 3rd date, but so far it doesn't look like we're going to have anything that's unsurmountable. So
All right.
that's what I have.
Anyone have any further
Will
questions?
you have,
Go
will
ahead.
you have federal prisoners come in right at 28th or shortly after? Or not for some time or what?
We have federal inmates present, and so they'll come up with us, and we anticipate getting them up there as soon as we can. I've been working with the chief deputy, U.S. Marshal out of Sioux Falls, for that purpose, and things seem to be good.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you, sir. All right, we got a couple of minutes, Brenda. You can probably, you can go ahead and present the text of the resolution, and by then we'll be able to hold our hearing.
This here's a notice of a supplemental budget. Back on the meeting in January 28th, you approved the expenditure of $30,000 to go to action of betterment community. Yep. And so this will just be the public hearing for give me budget authority to write the check to them.
Okay, this is the time and place for a public hearing on resolution 2025-09. If there's anyone in the room or online that would like to speak for or against this at this time, we would ask that you would please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to make any comments? Anyone at all? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and offer it to the board for action.
I move to approve the $30,000 transfer.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
I'm
Opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Bay. Glad to have you with us today.
Good morning.
I have a few things here today. We got to start with the utility permit. Aaron Schoen is requesting permission to put a water line under the Christensen Drive Road. In the past, this has always kind of been an area of contention, I guess. We've always had an issue with letting private individuals have a water line under our road. We've always kind of required some sort of governing entity or a water board or something like that. Be somebody responsible, be the owner of that water line. The city of Spearfish they don't quite operate that way. They allow private individuals put water lines under. So this gentleman has an issue with the water line doesn't meet the requirements of the city because it's servicing 2 lots. I believe he's here and he can answer some questions, but his problem is he wants to upgrade his property and the city's requiring an individual water line for each property. But then it's also on our road, so that's the problem. As far as putting the water line in, I mean, it's always kind of been from the highway standpoint, if there's a problem with that water line, we don't know who we'd go after if it was a private individual. The city doesn't quite operate under that. They go after the homeowner. Bruce and myself met with the city of Spearfish and the landowner, and we had quite a discussion about it. I know the last time we approved a permit on Christensen Drive, it was for the development there of Miller Ranch, and we did it under the premise of not applicable, and we didn't sign off on anything. We just, I think I have that here. We approved it back in 21, and we approved it under just for what remaining authority we have. So maybe that's an option here.
So if I may, as John referenced, we had a meeting and the city was there. Kevin, the planning and zoning administrator, Maya was there. I saw her here too. Yep. Kyle Mathis, Eric Neese, and then David Knox, the new city attorney, were also present along with Mr. Schoen, right? And so I think the idea was he was going to remodel the house. He undertook to remodel the house. And so then after he did that, he found out that the city, as John said, would require its own water service. It now shares water service. It's on the east side of the road. I think it's in the vicinity of Chris's campground, right? I think Brandon's by where your mom used to live there, actually. And so now the water line would have to come from the west to the east across the road. And so there is that. We also talked about whether the city would draft up, I think, a sort of indemnification agreement. I don't think a lot of effort was going to be put into that until we knew from you as commissioners what you thought of that. And so, John, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the city would say now that they would sort of provide repairs for anything from the water line up to the surface of the road. But there's a question of what would happen if any damage, like a sinkhole or something, if the pipe leaked below. Is that fair? Is that what you heard, John?
That is correct.
And
they would go to the homeowner. You know, that's whichever homeowner that services, that's who they would go for. And that is what their policy, and I have their policy here, and that's what it says, but it also says it's on a city street. You know, I'm a little questionable of whether the city would get too involved on a county road. That's my thought, but again, I don't know. I don't, if we could approve this for him under the authority of what, if we have any, I guess would be about, I see that as our only real option here.
Sure.
Just a-
Why can't we go after the homeowner as a county?
We might be able to, but then we would have to do that, right? And so, the history on this is that the city years ago, actually, I think considered it to be their road. They did a project on it and installed some infrastructure, I think, is that correct, John?
That is
To
correct.
include water lines. No permission was ever granted from the county to occupy the right of way. I think they've annexed on both sides of the road, past this point. And so our argument is that it should be a city road, but yet, so that folks like Mr. Schoen come in and they have to get county's permission to put this water line in. And so, yeah, we could go after the owner. I think what we normally would do is we would have an entity like Black Hills Power, or somebody that would post a bond, or we'd have some better recourse to go after somebody. So if you're the individual owner and at some point 5 years from now the water line breaks, they might be judgment proof. It could be a new owner. It might not even be the same owner. And so how is that obligation for that going to be passed on from the current owner to successive owners? That's some of the issues that we were struggling
With
with.
a deed restriction,
You could, I
some
think,
notification.
you could do that. I think we discussed that, but again, the current owner might not be the owner then, and they could virtually be judgment proof. If this thing leaks and it causes a lot of damage, it could be fairly expensive. I have no idea, right? Hopefully they would catch the leaking water very quickly. The city would tell us that they have a vested interest in discovering leaks very quickly and acting on them before they become a problem. But I don't know. I can't promise anything.
Well, and that was one of the city's points, that they, because it is their water and their water line, to keep from contaminating their water system, they are very proactive when it comes to leaks.
So this is a city water line.
Correct. City water line, on the, like I said, the west side of the road. They need to get to the east side of the road with a 1 1/8 inch poly line inside of a casing. So
If the city's water line breaks, wouldn't they fix it?
well, this is not the city's water line though. The city's ordinances. It's from the tap to the property is the homeowner's water line. That's the problem.
Mr. Chairman, if I may? Yeah. I think there is water to that subdivision further to the south. That's already on the east side of the road, but the run coming back is quite a distance. So it's easiest to come right across the road there from west to east in the vicinity of what we're talking about, right? And so there is already city water on that side of the road, but it's what, a quarter of a mile or better down to the south.
Yeah, I don't think it was much of an option for him to get water to his property from the east side.
Yeah, then he would have to cross, I think, other owners and things, and it would be complicated. So this seems to be the only option.
Is it this area where you wrote the city and told us that it should turn that county road over to the city because of these main water lines in the center?
It is.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and we did have a lengthy discussion about that at this meeting that John referenced, and so hopefully that started some more discussion again. They have a new city attorney and different folks involved, but we don't have a solution for it just yet.
Oh.
Yeah, so John.
And we don't have a solution. That's the problem. And the problem is the homeowner's kind of stuck in the middle here. He's stuck between the county and the city arguing over who's responsible for this.
Well, this would be a good time to get it taken care of.
Yes, it would. No, it won't happen that quick,
Doesn't
but
matter.
what's the solution you have, John?
Well, the solution I would have would be like we did back in July of 21 when the Miller Ranch went in, and that was that we
There's some verbiage we've got at all the utility things that basically says, if we actually have any authority, we grant permit. It's based like a quick claim deed.
Okay.
If we are actually
That's right.
authorized to do this, you have our permission, but we still don't think we do.
We signed it as NA on all of the application, and then the verbiage is
But that would move it forward and would mess it up even more to create more of a need to get it resolved once and for all.
Correct.
Yep. So yeah,
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second
Second.
for approval? Any further discussion?
Just one quick question. Where is the meter? Is the water meter at the house or is it at the tap?
I believe the water meter would be at the house, would it not?
Yeah, the water meter was at the house, and then where the one water line comes in, goes to the adjacent property and a little well house, and it just wires off, and there's a couple of valves in there to shut off. It's a mess.
I don't understand why that's not the city water line. It seems like the city water line would go to the meter.
No, all
Neither does
water
the-
lines
neither does the
within
sewer
the
line.
city are at the cap.
Well, this might.
Every house there.
Further discussion on that road, so. We do have a motion before us for approval. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, still passes. All right.
Thank you.
What else you got, John?
We're asking permission to authorize to bid our buildings and grounds, our maintenance shed up at the new Public Safety Service Center. I did misprint here where I put a 45 by 50 building. It is a 45 by 56 maintenance building. But we are asking to go, and I believe we changed the date on that too, did we not, Bruce, to March the 25th?
Yes,
Give us a little more time to prepare our bid tab and stuff like that.
so that would be the bid opening, yes.
Yeah, so it would be, asking to advertise for a bid opening for March 25th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. to open bids for this building.
And that'll be a big enough building for you to house everything? Tall enough to get the new equipment in and, yep.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman?
Second.
What do you have in mind for a price?
Well, we got some quotes, but I guess we're looking more into the bid process.
Yeah, I know.
Who did,
I think what we
Hold off on the-
budgeted
for-
290.
293.
293 is what we budgeted for that last year, so hopefully it will come in under that budget. We don't know.
Mr. Chairman, two items that we would like to include in the notice is that we will require, I think, a pre-bid on-site meeting to look at the site. And then also we would like to put a completion date in of, I think, November 1st. And so we would include those in the notices. I just want to get that permission, right? And so if you could include that, or that's allowed as part of the motion.
All right,
I'm good with that. Brandon's made the motion.
Yes.
okay, so we have a motion and a second for approval. Further discussion, Commissioner
Well, I
Slate?
just wondered, you said there's gonna be a month or something like that before you got the bidding.
Well, that's when we're asking for the date to open the bid, yes.
Open bids, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The next item on this agenda is our Rough Lock Falls agreement. This is something that we've been working on for quite a few years, actually. But the Game Fish and Parks has kind of came through and they've sent their proposal. They're willing to give us $85,000 to re-gravel and chloride the Rough Lock Falls Road for 1 mile from the Highway 80 or 14A to the park up there. This is a piece of road that, for the last several years, they've been paying us to chloride it because of the amount of traffic that road gets. It is still on our system as a county secondary road. That's another subject, but they are willing to by signing this agreement, paying us $85,000 to gravel and chloride that road this year.
And cut the drainage back in.
And we would do any of the repairs for the drainage and things like that. So I think it's a great deal for the county. We get to fix up a piece of road, doesn't really cost us anything. So we're gonna get paid for labor and equipment.
So
So
we need a motion to allow you to sign the agreement or have the chairman sign.
chairman sign,
So-
correct.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval.
Here.
Any further discussion?
thank you.
Seeing none, or
So
Commissioner Slate?
you think that the 85,000 gonna cover half?
Well, that was the 85,000 is the estimate that I gave them
Oh, you gave.
a year ago when we started this. So this is something that Alan Bonham was working on a couple of years ago. And then it just finally kind of came in. And last year when they contacted me and they wanted some estimates, and that was the estimate I gave them. So I do believe that will be enough to cover.
All right, that's what I was wondering.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Next on the agenda is our resolution 2025-10. Bruce has a little information about that. That's something that he's been working on. I think he's just bringing that up to your attention, just so you know that it's something that's coming. I think our plan is to open, when we open our bids for materials, that we would set some sort of a price. We always have charged people, we've given that option to charge people for additional chloride on secondary roads. But we don't really have anything in place that has a resolution to do that. So just to kind of be on the up and up, we've decided we should probably do a resolution.
We have consistency, it's gonna be better.
Thanks, Mo,
Way
for
to
that.
go. I said for consistency, it's the right way to go, just to have it spelled out.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. So I think John brought to my attention that although we've been made chloriding, we've had sort of more of an informal way of doing it, right? And so he looked at statute, and the statute requires that it be a petition and that there be a written agreement. So we've reflected the documents to be a petition and a written agreement, and then consistent with how you've done things like the inmates, planning and zoning fees. Our idea would be each year, and would be in March of each year when you do the bid opening for the supplies, that then you would set the price for the year for the mag chloride.
That's correct.
And so that's why we originally were going to submit the resolution for your approval today, but we thought we would wait. And then when we know that amount, we will just include that amount. We'll modify the resolution to include that in there. So you'll see an example of how we'll do it each year.
Correct.
So that's upcoming.
Yep.
So Bruce, will you include the distance too in there, in that agreement? Because the houses are gonna require different distances.
We've always done it based on a per gallon request from the homeowners. A per gallon is what we've always done in the past. And I think Bruce has been working on our application, changing it into a petition, and it will still have a per gallon type of language in there.
Great, thank you.
So if I may. So Richard, nothing will change. We're just sort of bringing our procedures up to snuff, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, John's been really good about it.
Well, I understand what you're doing there. Each house that requests is gonna be for a different distance, or can be.
That will be, I think the number of miles and the cost per gallon will be reflected in each agreement. Yes. Then that would bind them, obligate them to pay that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So that'll be coming to us in the near future.
Yes.
Yeah, we decided to wait for bid opening, so we have the actual dollar amount and we know what it is per gallon.
All right.
Which is coming up. Then I guess last on this, what I have is our minimum maintenance standards. Did you guys had a little bit of time to look that over? The last time we talked, I mean, I gave you some kind of a list of what I thought could be minimum maintenance. If you would have anything to add or delete or any thoughts on that. Then I also added the lists of roads that have been contemplated over the last several meetings when we talked about this. And I've also included the Forest Service list of roads. Some of the roads on the Forest Service list also show up on our county highway system. It's kind of confusing, and we I don't know, we somehow share jurisdiction of them. Some of them are primary roads. These are roads, I mean, we're never gonna, like Brownsville, we're not gonna get rid of Brownsville. I mean, it's a busy road, and it services a lot of people. So that is on their list of roads that for their Schedule A maintenance agreement. Me and Bruce have met with the Forest Service, and we wonder why some of these roads are even on those lists. But that is on here, and then the list of roads that we've had consistently over the years. Now, I've kind of condensed that to the list of roads that we had. I've removed the ones that we've already removed. Your last list had them.
Those in green are section line.
Those are
roads,
section
and by
line
law,
roads. By state statute, we can't get rid of them, but we can make them minimum maintenance.
We can?
We can.
Okay.
That is, and we can do that without any public hearing or
Because
anything.
some of those are just.
Well, for instance, Mr. Fager has passed away, and so we have quit taking care of that road. I mean, that road, the Fager Road serviced just him, and now there's really no reason for us to be in there. So we have since kind of quit servicing that road. But yeah, those section line roads, those would be roads we can't by state statute get rid of. But we can make them minimum maintenance.
Along with all the rest. So all 30 roads.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I think the standard for minimum maintenance is occasional and intermittent traffic, right?
Yep.
So you have to make a finding basically that that's the status, and then it qualifies for minimum maintenance, and you have to sign it probably accordingly too.
Yep, and some signing, yep. I think those statutes are on here too.
And these are all the roads we toured.
Correct.
Okay.
These are.
Well, Alan just finished doing the wholesale road at $35,000 a piece not long ago. Is that right?
Well, the list there, I have everywhere. Each one of these roads, I've supplied the date that it was last gravelled. So every one of these roads has got a pretty fresh lift of gravel. Some of these roads hadn't been gravelled in 30 years, and they have since been. So I think these roads are prime conditioned for us to kind of scale back our level of maintenance, just because they all do have new gravel on them. They don't have a lot of traffic. My biggest concern would be the fact that if we just completely quit doing service on them, then those roads would suffer. There could be some issues, if we still have ownership of that road and we just quit doing maintenance all the way around, I think you're going to see some real deterioration on those roads. And then if we are responsible to bring them back up to a standard, you're going to be looking at expense again. I think if you do a minimum amount of maintenance, it would reduce our expense in the long run of keeping that road in a decent condition.
Well, Eric, you wanted to get rid of the roads altogether, did you? And some of them?
I just want to reduce the maintenance to reduce our costs. Getting rid of the roads altogether is a much greater process.
Well, yeah.
And reducing the maintenance is doable. It's like John said, it still gives us the opportunity to reduce the costs, but keep the roads in a drivable condition that won't deteriorate to the point of being very expensive to repair.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't think John is asking you to take any action today, but he's just sort of slowly presenting you information so you can think about it and make any recommendations that you have.
Any recommendations from you would be great.
I'm very good with quit kicking the can down the road because we've been looking at this for a year, and then I think other commissions have looked at it forever. So I would make a motion that we change the 30 roads on the list to minimum maintenance.
Second.
Okay, would you like to include any language for us to give these folks a time frame or something to know that this is coming?
Doesn't appear we're changing the maintenance that much where it's going to inhibit them because we're still plowing the roads with 4 inches of snow, etc. So, no.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any further discussion?
I guess I would feel better if we made that effective for the next snow season.
I would agree with that. I mean, first of all, it's going to be a little hard for us to put minimum maintenance signs on all these right now.
What date do you want on that?
I would recommend that we make these minimum maintenance in the spring. Get through this winter. We would have a little better option of maybe signing these roads. I think if we did it in the spring,
like
April 1, May 1.
June 1,
Yeah.
May 1, what do you want?
I'm good with any date. I just don't think we should do it this
I
winter.
would amend my motion to make it beginning June 1.
Okay, everyone on board with the changes? We have motion to approve the amended motion to put these 30 roads on a minimum maintenance program. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Chairman?
Yes.
What do you want to talk about on the Forest Service maintenance list? I mean, can we do much with that?
Well, I mean, I think that's still up in the air a little bit of what the Forest Service, they've been working on getting us a list of Schedule A roads. So we have a mechanism to transfer the funds for the Tinton Road project. The last thing, the email we got the last time, I believe it had kind of some a template for some of these roads, but we're still kind of, I believe we're still contemplating which roads are really on that list. Some of these roads being on the county highway system shouldn't be on that Forest Service Schedule A list. So I think we're kind of, the last meeting we had that then we gave them our list of roads, and I don't know that we've got the finalized list yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's true that, we have these sort of doubled up roads, right? And so the Forest Service would say that that they're Forest Service roads and that the county needs permission to do certain activities on the road, put gravel down, do snow removal. And so historically, we've just done that. And now the Forest Service, I think it's been prompted by the Tinton Road issue, is now trying to sort of fix that, right? Trying to memorialize, basically give us permission on what roads that we're allowed to do what on. Is that fair, John?
That is.
And we used to have these Schedule A and Schedule B, but it got discontinued about 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Right. Well, and then, like I said, that I do know that some of the roads that were on their list, they were going to remove. I believe they were removing some of them. I think Brownsville was one of them. They were going to remove that from their list, so.
We, as a committee, we used to have to go over and blade the road at least one time a year if it had any Forest Service contact at all.
Well, that was part of our old agreement. They paid us to do grading on their roads, and it was.
Where are we at with Tinton Road? We still.
Well, with the new administration, the last meeting we had, they didn't know for sure when they would get the funds. I think they said when or if we get the funds is what they said.
Yeah.
So they may not happen.
You may have.
Stand by, I think was what I heard, right?
That's right. So.
Okay, so there's a few of these roads. I'm trying to think, just process this through. If all of these roads are, okay, I can come up with my question now. Some of these roads are on the DOT list of primary or secondary roads.
Correct.
If they're not on the agreement with the county from the Forest Service, they're still on the DOT list.
That
But
is
we
correct.
could take them off of the DOT list through the public hearing process. Is that correct?
That would be correct. If you wanted to remove some of these roads that the Forest Service says are theirs, but they're on the DOT list as county roads, we would have to go through the process of removing a road from the system.
Public hearing, pass the resolution, give notice, DOT has to approve.
Mm-hmm.
And that would take the county off of the responsibility for those roads that may or may not have any traffic up on them.
That is correct.
Commissioner Flanagan.
This is where we got gummed up the last time, like Juso Road, a couple of the other ones that are,
Frosty Meadows.
yeah. They're in holdings, they're private in holdings that cross the Forest Service. If the county doesn't, if it's not a public right of way under the control of the county, then they have to get permission every year from the Forest Service to keep that access open. I'd rather go no maintenance or minimal maintenance to make sure that in perpetuity is open to the public and the person that owns that property, instead of having to beg permission from the Forest Service the rest of their life. It's open. I don't want to have to maintain it, but at least we give them that it's like, okay, well, we can either take it off and you can get permission from the Forest Service, or we can not maintain it and you're fine. But that's where I got gummed up with the North County and the South County with changing those roads, was if we abandoned a bunch of them, that some of those would have to be permits under the Forest Service to actually access their property. And they can only say you can walk in.
Yeah.
On some of those.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, Brandon's exactly right. That I can't remember now, but there can be some unintended consequences by completely walking away. There are examples where you, on a given driveway, you have county, Forest Service, county again, and it becomes some kind of crazy mix. I can't remember which road that was, but completely walking away would potentially complicate that, right? And again, they could just have walk-in access. So I think John's suggestion of kind of that is that sweet spot of minimum maintenance that resolves some of those issues.
Well, I think it will. I mean,
yeah.
My plan is we can make these minimum maintenance and we can tailor what we do to the road. I mean, we can kind of, if we think a road is costing us too much to maintain, I mean, we can scale back, you know. It's just going to be a matter of, keeping close eye on the road to make sure that the road isn't completely unraveling and falling apart. We don't want to get to the point like that, because then again, we end up spending a lot of money bringing that road back if it's still our road, if we haven't gotten rid of it.
Do we clarify that by make all the primary and secondary roads on this list minimum maintenance, or all the roads minimum maintenance?
Well, I don't think we should make any primary roads minimum maintenance. I don't think that would be the way to go.
So-
I think this list over here of 30 roads, I think that's the list that we should work on.
And don't touch this.
Don't even worry
Okay.
about the US Forest Service roads. That was more just a list, a cross-reference, I guess, is what that was intended for you guys. I would just worry more about what roads we have identified in the 30.
Okay, well, we got that done. Also under your time as a stakeholder group for Highway 85 project.
That was something, we had a meeting with the state. They're doing a Highway 85 project between Cheyenne Crossing and the Wyoming border. They thought it would maybe be beneficial to have one of you commissioners on their panel of stakeholders. I'm on it, Bruce is on it, there's a handful. We gave them a list of people to contact to try to be involved, but they thought it would be beneficial to maybe have a commissioner on there.
It won't be for a couple years yet, but they're gonna be starting their planning efforts more in earnest here soon, right?
Correct. Yeah, the project doesn't happen for a couple of years. It's
2009,
the meetings.
But they're talking about a huge rebuild of that.
No, they
that
scaled
road
it back
today.
a lot,
Oh, okay.
quite a lot, actually, from what they told us, yeah.
That's the
They were gonna move the road in several locations. It sounds like they're not going to do, that now. They're just gonna do some widening and a few areas where they're gonna straighten some curves out, but nothing like they had originally planned.
Do any of you gentlemen have a burning desire to be on that?
I would take that on, considering I'm utilize that road up there.
Okay.
Frequently.
Don't need action on that. do we, Bruce?
If you want to appoint him, then I'll let Mike Carlson know that Commissioner Jennings is, please.
Okay, someone needs to make a move.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint Commissioner Jennings to that committee. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Does that clean up your agenda, John?
That's everything for me. I do believe we got some city of Spearfish plats.
3 of them. We're gonna take a 5-minute break and let Amber get situated and pardon?
3 flats.
The plats from Spearfish are.
3 plats. Jemiah has 3 plats.
You wanna do those now before we take a break?
I guess it's up to you.
It won't take long.
Okay,
Should.
go ahead, Will.
Do you have a preference to go through each of them? There are 3 of them. They're all within the ETJ area adjacent to county roads. And so we're looking for authorization from you all for the highway superintendent's signature on the Mylars.
Mr. Chairman. I think John Bay, and I would refer to John, did have comments on the one from the Rory Maynard plat. Is that fair, John?
I did have comments on that one. The other 2, they're not asking for any other approaches, nor is there any additional right of way. The Maitland Road one, that is the one that we've already given the information from the developer and from the I guess the surveyor that designed it. We approved some approaches on that property. The city didn't like that and they made them redesign. They're asking for additional right of way, and they're also incorporated, I believe, a section line road in there. I did reach out to the city asking them if their intent is to add a road to the highway system. I got no response. So that's the one I have some issues with.
Mr. Chairman, John, is it fair to say then, I think some of the point of what you're saying is that although prior permits have been permitted, the new there are going to be different locations, and the owner, Mr. Maynard or whoever, is going to need to come back in and get new permission
Correct.
for those, right?
That is correct.
Just so that's very clear. I think that's the takeaway on it.
They're gonna have to remove the existing approaches and put different approaches in.
Commissioner Sleep.
I'd like to talk about each one individually rather than lump them together.
Good thing.
Okay.
So the first one that you see in your packet there is a final plat of Tract B. This is southwest of the intersection of Pheasant Lane and Brooksview Road. It's an 8-acre tract, and the adjacent property owner is already under contract to purchase that. So it's really just creating that lot so that that property owner can purchase it and incorporate it with their existing property at that corner. There is a small portion of public right-of-way, really just an expansion of the existing public right-of-way, about 11,000 square feet total there. There's a piece of that adjacent to both Pheasant Lane and also Brooksview Road. There's no additional access requested at this time associated with that plan.
Well, I'd be concerned on, I think there's the first one, is the one that, one road is, the county road, and it's a truck route.
Mm.
And so I hate to see the, city, ball up that, road, the McGuigan Road there too much because,
I don't think that's the location.
is that the right
No.
one?
No, this is on Brookview and
I thought this was it here.
nope.
This
No,
is one of
sir.
the old Ward properties. Ward,
But the
Grandma.
backside, the east side.
Okay,
Yeah. Ward borders the Bell Fourche, Old Bell Highway on one side and Brookview on the backside.
yeah. Well, I was jumping the gun. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Does this then transfer the deed of that additional right of way to the city of Spearfish? I
It
don't-
does-
It
It
does,
does not.
okay. I mean, I would say the highway superintendent can sign this, but I'm also gonna specifically state that the county will not take that right of way. So they can either change that plat, they can take fee simple, title to that right of way, or they can not get it approved, or not get my vote to approve it, so. We're not in the business of taking more right of way. I don't think we have any business exceeding our 66 feet. You know, and Divert did this, but I know Divert had to do it because the city told him. And he sat here beside me before, the same thing, and went, well, this is fine, but we don't own this. We don't need more right of way in that space.
This isn't the last one of these, you guys.
No, but we gotta do something, and
I know.
I'll make a motion to approve this, or to have a highway superintendent sign it, but not accept that right of way.
Sure. I think, I was just looking at SDCL 11.3.12 again recently, and I think that statute says that when there's a dedication and an entity accepts it, that it effectively transfers that right of way in fee simple, right? And so there is an ownership change, it's by an ownership change by operation of law. It's not done by a deed. And so, I mean, I think the argument would be is that the approving authority in the city of this case, they're getting fee simple ownership of it. I don't think it's the county. And I mean, that would be something that, you know, from the city's perspective, they might want to look at. I can't say that. They're getting, I think, ownership of these properties for them to, like, who's going to spray weeds, who's going to be responsible for the liability and those kinds of things, especially if those roads are never annexed in or incorporated into the city, at least not in the near future. Does that make sense? You have to sort of could have this patchwork of these. I think effectively they're held in trust for the public in fee simple. And so I just throw that out there to think about. That affects your policy, right? It's 11.3.12 that talks about that.
Thank you.
But that policy kind of comes from the ETJ, and interpretation, I think of it differently than other people, but interpretation says that has to be platted.
Yeah.
That piece. Why can't it be an easement? Similar to the 66-foot wide easement but the ownership continues to be with the landowner.
I still don't want that easement.
I think
The county doesn't need it. Doesn't want it.
No.
Mr. Chairman. So I think what Rick's question is there a substitute if the ETJ ordinance says it has to be platted? Is it an acceptable substitute to have it be by easement? Because effectively that land is there to be used in the future no matter what. I would argue that might be an acceptable substitute, but I don't get to make that decision, right? And I think that the Spearfish is working on their ETJ ordinance. I don't know what they're looking at in those terms, but maybe that might be an option, or they might just flat out eliminate that requirement. I don't know. I mean, they are looking forward to their future land or road system as well. But yeah, I mean, I would make the argument that an easement accomplishes the goal of having the land set aside for a future road.
And yet the land stays within the owner's ownership, and they're still paying taxes on it.
Yeah. And then you have a definite person who's in charge of spraying the weeds, all that seems to would go away. And then the county certainly is not the owner for sure in that scenario.
Okay, we didn't have a second.
Second.
Well, I want Brendan to
I make a motion to allow the highway superintendent to sign as the plat authority, or as the highway authority. But I also want noted that we did not make this plat, we did not require additional right-of-way to be taken out, and the county does not accept any right-of-way from this plat.
Okay. You agree? with that?
Any.
I'll still second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, what's your next one?
Did Richard, I think Richard voted.
I am.
against that.
Huh?
I think Richard voted against that.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you. The next one is the final plat of tracks M1A1 and M1A2. This may look familiar. It's northwest of the intersection of Oliver Street and McWigan Road. There was recently a plat done here 3 or so months ago. So this is further subdividing the existing tract M1A to create 2 new tracts about 5 acres each. So again, within the ETJ area, the parcel is zoned suburban residential district, which is a Lawrence County zoning designation. There's no new access proposed for this subdivision either. There is a shared driveway easement that's dedicated by the plat for an existing approach, which will service both of these new lots.
Motion to approve the final.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, just a second. We got a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Well, I think this is the part there that I wanted to make sure that there wasn't, and she did say there wasn't gonna be any other easements on there, but it is next to McWigan Road, and that is our designation as a truck route. And I think it's the Barker trucks are just over on the other side of this. They go in, and then the trucks from for log hauling trucks go in too. So we want to make sure that it doesn't get turned over to the city, because they'll do the same thing as they did with Main Street and run us off of there.
Mr. Chairman, I think the any motion would be to authorize the chairman to sign the plat, right, as highway authority. You're not necessarily approving the plat.
Okay, Commissioner Flanagan, you have a comment?
This is one we've already approved the right-of-way for. We've already approved the access
Right.
permit on it.
It's correct, yeah.
We did this last.
There
week.
was no extra right of way here. This is already this section of road was federal highway,
We got
100 feet of right of way on this to begin with. Yep.
Okay,
So the motion would be to allow the highway superintendent to sign the plat as a highway.
That would have been my motion.
Any further discussion on the amended motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You got one more for us?
I do. Lastly, this is Blue Sky Estates. So the final plat of 9 different lots and 2 tracts. There are 3 existing tracts, and the resulting lots will range from just about 2 acres to 5 acres. And then the 2 tracts on the southern portion of the property will be each about 13 acres. Let's see. So as mentioned already, Blue Sky Estates, there was an approach permit approved by you all several months ago now, before there was a subdivision request in for this property. And so during that process, the city had concerns about the location of that existing approach permit and worked with the developer to have that moved on the plat that you see before you today further north, so that it aligns with an existing road on the other side of Maitland. So that was,
I think that was a discussion that we had in here too.
Was a
Okay.
discussion.
Why doesn't it line up? It should line up.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm kind
So
of
that was the
trying to see
rationale with that. It kind of optimized the location of that access point, and then also worked well for them with the subdivision of those lots. And they're maxing out what they can do for subdivision here, as long as it's zoned this way and in the county.
Used to be.
Further to the south, there is proposed 80 feet of public right-of-way. The city is requesting that. And the rationale for that is that we do see the very likely possibility of Centennial Road making a connection there in the future. So at this time, we're requesting that right-of-way from the property owner. They've agreed to that. They are not obligated to make any improvements in that right-of-way, and this is something that the city would look at in the future. either as a city project or potentially as part of another development, should that property come into the city and be further subdivided or developed.
My concern on that was it's on a section line. And my question to the city was, if it's a section line road, is there a proposal that that would become a county secondary highway? And again, I got no response from the city on that. So I guess that's what I'm asking. Is that the plan? That would be an extension of Centennial and it would become a portion of the county highway system?
So a portion of it on here is adjacent to the section line, and what we requested from the property owner and they agreed to was just 40 feet north of that section line on their half of it. So at this time, no, and a road wouldn't be built there now. Potentially in the future, that's something the city would look to take over and participate in or require that a developer construct. Does that answer your question?
So I'll make the same motion I did last time. I'll approve this plat. None of the right of ways go to the county.
So
I'll second it for further discussion. Go ahead, Commissioner, please.
so you might change the way this layout is with roads at a later date?
There's no intention to do that, and the developer, their engineer did design this extension of Centennial Road, so it's feasible that it will fit within this right of way. If there were some change to that in the future, we would have to go through the process of vacating that right of way. But right now, this is what is intended and we think is feasible for a connection to Centennial Road at a later date.
Okay, further discussion.
So
Commissioner
I'm
Jim.
not sure I'm understanding this completely. So if Centennial Road gets extended over to here, who would own that road? So it wouldn't be up to the county to build that road. It would, I'm assuming it'd be up to a developer. So how does it then end up on the county system?
By state statute, any road, every section line is a county secondary highway.
Because it's on a section line as well.
Because it's on a section line.
I think Mr. Chairman, I think it would require the county to approve it, any improvements, and or, if the city annexed it and jurisdiction got turned over to them, the county vacated the section line, but then it would have to get rededicated back. There would be some danger to ever doing that. It is a complicated issue when and if that ever does happen. I don't think that the city can just automatically compel a road to be in there again because it is a section line without some more thought.
And I really have a question about this. If that were dedicated as public right of way, does that change
It already
that
is.
process at all?
If it's a section line, it's already 66 foot publicly dedicated, but I think the county by statute has is vested with the authority to superintend that and whatever happens in it, as long as it's in the county. And so, again, I think if whatever would happen there, if it's still in the county, the county would have to approve it unless the city would annex it and then take that part of the road over and replace the county, right? I mean, we'd have to put some thought into that.
And I think it's being corrected or worked on. That's hence the reason this should have been brought into the city limits in the first place. But they have the option not to at this point, so they didn't. But I think there's changes being made, so in the future, anything adjoining city services, etc., will have to be in the city limits. Correct?
Mr. Chairman, it's a good thing to keep in mind. This is one of those things that we're going to see more and more often, that we're going to need to have a good workable policy to probably resolve those issues.
Yeah. And we're getting there with this help, this young lady and Kevin.
Okay, further discussion on the motion.
I don't know there's a second.
I did,
Oh, okay.
so that we can discuss. Okay,
But we get to talk about this later on if they change it.
Correct.
Or do something, yeah, okay.
all right. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
We've only been talking about this at city.
Thank you all.
So on.
I'm going to pause the recording now, folks. We're in recess.
And I'm always on the losing end of the whole thing.
Wow, it's in the
It's
it's
still
still
on, it
on.
should be recording still.
Yep, it's
even though
already
the microphone's
recording.
not on.
Yeah.
Should be good.
Amy will text me if we're not. Okay, so the first plat that we have on here is James and Laura Rogers. This one, they purchased the neighboring lot, so it's 10 and 11 up in Shirt Tail Gulch. So they just want to combine them both together. So they purchased the adjacent empty lot. So they're just trying to combine them together. This is a fire plan exemption. Short Tail already has an existing fire plan, but they're not putting any structures or anything on it.
So is the fire plan done? I mean, do we need to do an exemption?
No, we don't.
Or is there, if there's a fire plan in place, it's done? then we
It's
don't-
already done, so I would
So
say
we don't
probably not.
So we just need a motion, a second for the
Approve
consolidation
the
plat.
preliminary and final. I did.
And I think those fire plans ought to be done before they do anything rather than.
They said it's done.
Yeah.
This one's different because they're
This
making
is an
one lot
old
out
one
of
too.
two.
The
Yeah.
fire plan was one of the original, I don't know when Shirt Tail was done, years and years ago.
What was recommendation plan going?
To approve.
Motion to follow recommendation, approve the preliminary and final.
We have to
Final.
declare it exempt.
Didn't need to, as a fire plan.
I'll second it. Further discussion.
If there's a current fire plan, but it's old, is it still current? I guess that's the question, or has it gotten
Yeah,
overgrown?
because
Would no longer comply.
our ordinance stated that plats before a certain date, since they're
Mhm.
not making any changes, it would be you could do it as an exempt plat because you're not making any changes to the fire plan. You're still keeping the existing fire plan
Okay.
in place.
I'll
if you
pull
want
my
to.
motion. I'll make a motion to make this exempt as a consolidation plat. Whether or
Second.
not it needs to be.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for exempt. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Now I'll make the
carried.
motion to follow recommendation. Approve.
Preliminary and final.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Alright. The next one is Black Hills property, lots 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, 4, Block 3, Auburn Acres. This one is just going to be an approval denial of this. Fire plan's already in place. They're working on everything. It's consistent with what we've done in the past. This does match the preliminary plat, so we're just looking at final. We usually bring these forward to you when it's kind of because they're doing a chunk of them together. But nothing new with it.
We need to declare exempt.
No, this one is not exempt.
As fire plan. Motion to approve the final plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the preliminary and the final.
Just the final.
Just final is all it is. I've had the preliminary for a
So
long time.
my paper's wrong. Okay, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
You must have looked at the wrong one. It's not. I know.
Mine is. It's the wrong one.
It's the wrong one.
Fine.
I promise.
Yeah, I was looking. All right, carry on.
Okay. The next one is lots 8A of Tahoe Ridge subdivision, which is combining lots 8 and 9 together. So it's going to be 8A. It's a combination. We are saying it's exempt due to the fact that they're just combining lots for lot line revision.
Motion to
Combination.
make exempt for consolidation plat.
Second.
Okay, my motion is second for exempt. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to approve the preliminary and final. Follow
Second.
recommendation.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary and the final. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
This one is a lot line combination again. So it was Paradise Acres 5A. It used to be 5 and 6. They're combining the two together. So same thing, just combining the lots, decreasing density.
This one. This fire plant appears already in. So we got it's identity. Are we not in the same?
No, we do. There's hydrants and stuff there, but there's still, we always do exempt if you're combining lots.
Motion to make it exempt.
Second.
Did we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second for exempt. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to approve the final plat.
Okay, I'll second it. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next one is James Christensen This is off of, well, you get there, you come into the city limits of Whitewood and you turn on Stage Stop, I think is the name of it. You turn on Stage Stop kind of between the mill and the interstate. There's kind of that little dirt road that goes in there.
Sure.
I think it's Stage Stop is what they call it. And you turn in there to get to this property, even though it's right along the interstate. So, and Mr. Christensen has passed away. Phyllis, his significant other, got all the property. She would like to stay in the trailer that sits there, but she would like to sell off a portion of it to be able to stay there.
Is there a new pole building or something on it right now? There's a new building right around there.
On the
To
way
that
to
one,
the,
right?
on the way to
to
the
it,
house
that's
and the
on a
trailer.
separate
Yeah.
lot. And Mr. Christensen built that originally, but it sold off a few years ago. It sold to somebody else fairly recently. Yeah, Phyllis came in and she's just trying to figure out how to be able to stay in the house. Is kind of what's going on. So she'd like to, and there's an old cabin that sits on the other one. It's pretty much not, I mean, nobody lives in it. It's just dilapidating. So she'd like to, that'll go with the other lot.
Okay, which way?
Meets density requirements. No fire plan is needed. They did check, but they're both open lots. It's already pretty much been treated.
I'll move to approve the preliminary and final as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the preliminary and the final. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Let's see.
Four mayors on the last
Let
one?
me see if anybody's online. I thought Bradley was gonna be here, but I don't see him. I'll see. I mean, this is a layout. It's just kind of a general, and I can tell you what planning and zoning said. So this is kind of that third phase of Apple Springs, which we've been kind of waiting for a while to see this. We're just kind of finally getting to that point. So you're going up on the ridge line. You can see it up there. This is just a layout. So they wanted to just kind of make sure that they're hitting all the points or concerns that you guys may have. There is going to be some issues with getting up. Once you're up on top, it's nice and open and easy, but the grade getting to the top from the existing road is going to be an issue. So they do know that they're probably going to have to ask for some sort of, some stuff on it. And they, at the planning and zoning, I'll read it to you because that's probably easier. You just got the minutes done. So Brad Limbo was present at the last meeting. The golf course layout has changed over time. We've kind of changed some things around. The road plans are pushing the limits for the county road requirements for slope and grading. The fire chief, they did have the fire chief from, it's actually Sturgis because it's in their fire district, came out and looked at it and met with the engineers. And he felt that he didn't think that it would be an issue getting trucks or equipment up to the top with the current, like what they've submitted. He thinks it'll be fine. And then Shane questioned some number of lots served by that steep road. They're asking between 70 to 73. And so I think it was very apparent at planning and zoning, one of the concerns that they had was they for sure wanted a secondary access, because once you get up on top, how do you get out of that top part instead of having to come back down through the subdivision? So that's something they have to work on. They own the adjacent 40 that they can get access across. And then they're working on whether or not they can figure something out to get down onto Crook Mountain Road, the other side, because it does connect on that side up on top.
Forest Service, isn't it?
Yeah, so they're working on that. And there's a road there, you can get all the way from this property down. You have to go through the gate on the Crook Mountain side, but it's usually locked in the winter time for sure. Nope, this is.
He's on the north side.
He's on the other side. No, this isn't Kirk City Road, Kirk Mountain.
This is that Forest Service, we approved the plat, but the access was off that Forest Service road.
Yep, yep. So he's working on that, and he knows going into it that he's trying to figure out how to make that connection. And he can't, like I said, he owns one of the parcels that he can at least give his own, you know, he can get an easement across there, but he's got to get from that point to Crook Mountain. And then they're looking at maybe some alternatives coming down the other way. So I know that that was one thing.
Crook Mountain, a county road?
No.
No.
Forest Service. Comes up Crook City, goes south, right at Crook City, the actual town site.
Oh, okay.
Right in there.
Discussions on that road.
So it ties back up, okay.
So they're looking
Wild
at that, and then there was question on, there was a lot of discussion about the angle of the road, the grade, you know, just kind of back and forth on that. The engineer was here, and basically he just said they've tried every other way to do it, but they are open to, there's some kind of a road surfacing that they can put on it for being slick. I don't know what he called it. There was a name for it. There's something that they can put on it to help with that. It would change the way the road looks a little bit, and then they were looking at, they would be open to doing guards if they needed to, that kind of thing.
Did they have any preliminary road grade?
Yeah, it's in the
stuff?
packet.
I didn't see it last one.
It's steep.
I must have missed it.
Was it 13?
I mean,
It's about
there's
13.
been discussion about
Yeah,
this on and off
13.
over the years. Commissioner Sleep will agree. There's some areas of the county that just are not conducive to development.
Mhm.
If they can't get a road in here that's safe, this might be one.
Yeah,
Or they
they're
need to make the
saying
road
it's-
real long and go across it and lose a bunch of lots. But that's,
I don't think
for
that-
safety, it is what it is.
And they're asking, it's 700 feet is about the distance, but they're still trying to work on it. So that's kind of where that, they did do a technical memorandum in here to just kind of give you a, you know, overview of everything. Gave you a phase 3, what it's gonna look like, the fire department letter, and some of that. And then they did question, so I do know that the board wanted to be able to do an on-site on this to kind of visually see what was going on. So it sounded like they knew kind of what they needed to work on going out of that meeting. They were gonna go back and kind of look at everything, and then as soon as weather would allow, the board wants to do an on-site. They already told them that. So I think, I mean, there's not really anything, mainly just, do you have any additional concern? I figured those were pretty concerned for, you guys would have to, is, you know, secondary access, the steepness, the slope. That's what P&Z told them. They are planning on extending the water, so it'll still have hydrants and stuff, just like the rest of Apple Springs does. They'll do all of that still. They'll have to put a new tank in on the top side. So that's still being extended, just like what's there.
I don't see any preliminary road grades in here at all. I see a bunch of stuff on sewer. And
Well, and they might have just done this for now, because it was a layout.
that's not road grades.
Yeah, they might have just done this for now.
The road
They
grades
just
might have been
talked
in the
about
minutes. Did I see the road grades in the minutes from planning and zoning?
Well, and I know they talked about them, but they may not have actually given us the documents yet, which they would.
I assume they have some preliminary road
They
profile.
do. Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yep. But I know they kind of had talked about, well, they showed them at P&Z. They might have just not submitted them yet, because they wanted to see what you thought first. And I think the board basically told them, well, you need to look at it a little more. And I think that was a fair assessment.
They're absolutely
I
correct.
don't think they're ready to have it voted on to begin with now.
Well, they're not
They
asking you to
gotta
vote on it. It's a layout plan.
Information.
Yep, it's just, if there's any other concerns to what planning and zoning already told them, which was secondary access, the grade. And then there was some question on how they were going to extend the services.
So we do or don't have to take?
You guys usually motion to approve the layout plan so they can go forward to work on the rest. Because that's where they're at, they know that.
Sure, whenever you give them the input that you've received, the
Yep.
feedback, right?
Yep. And that's what I said, unless there's anything different than what planning and zoning already told them. You
Sounds
guys.
like our concerns are the same. Okay, we need a motion.
Do you actually do a motion on this? Because
Usually you
I can't vote for it without seeing any kind of preliminary road grades, because that, to me, it just looks like it might not work, period, so.
I'm in the same boat, and I'm uncomfortable doing a layout plan without.
Then deny the layout plan
Okay.
until you see I think would be fair.
I move that we deny this layout plan unless and until you see some preliminary road grades, that the profiles that make life safety sense.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, to deny the layout plan until we have further documentation to support what they want to do. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I think that's,
Is that all on your plate?
we have the memorandum of agreement, but I don't know if that's here or if that's a different.
It's at
It's at the top. Okay. So we have a release of a portion of a memorandum of agreement and letter of credit from Powerhouse Pass Phase 4, which is Auburn Acres. But then you're turning around and doing a new one. They're just changing the amount on it and stuff. So we're releasing one and turning around and signing a new one, and those are all in there. So the old one was this one. And if they're asking for it to be released, and it was for 801,871 with specifics. And then the new one is this one, and it's for 1,842,003.
We like that number better.
Yeah. So it's just changing. They finished one part, but they need to keep working on the rest of it.
Did you review this, Mr.
I
Alfred?
think that was my handwriting on that.
It
other-
was on the
yeah,
other one.
Yeah, and I think we checked the amounts and, based upon the engineer's estimate and did the math on 15%, and I think it's okay.
Okay, can we do this in one motion?
I think you can.
I think you
I
could
make a
release
motion, we
the one.
release the letter of credit dated November 26, 24, or at least the notation on it
We'll
says
put this
that.
number in there. That's what we
And
have.
there you go, and accept the new letter of credit.
But that no.
Perfect.
Second.
Okay. The motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In that motion, I think implied was authorization to have the chairman sign the agreement as
Yes.
well.
Okay, just making sure.
I thought it was.
That's what I heard.
I didn't hear that.
Does that take care of all yours? Linda?
Or else
I
you
think
would have
that's all
voted
I
yes. No.
Did you vote nay?
Trying to make sure it's like-
That's what was holding me back. I didn't hear him.
I didn't either.
Okay, there might not
Did
be.
you
any,
vote
'cause
against
that's what
that,
they sent
Richard?
me.
Yeah.
Cause it's just the letter. of credit.
Does anybody need a break or are we okay?
That one's been.
Okay.
We're good.
Original.
Good.
Mr. Thompson,
And I have the other original.
first reading of ordinance 2025-01.
Is this also a public hearing?
It is not,
No,
because
it's
it's not a
first
planning and
reading.
zoning matter, so it only requires a first and a second reading.
So
That is
today is
ordinance,
just the
but only-
first reading of it.
Yeah, planning and zoning ordinance requires specifically a public hearing, but regular ordinances don't.
And we will not be taking any action until the following meeting, so.
We have a public hearing if you want. Mr. Chairman, I think it's fairly straightforward. I think what Paul has done is it mirrors an earlier ordinance from like 2011? 2012. At the time it was presented back then, the penalty provision was taken out of the ordinance after much discussion. That's a bit unusual not to have a penalty provision in an ordinance. That's usually why you have an ordinance, is to be able to enforce it. But nonetheless, that's what happened. So I think Paul is now bringing it to you. And so, well, there are a few minor other changes, but the significant change is adding that penalty provision back in, which is consistent with state law that sets the maximum penalty equivalent to a class 2 misdemeanor, which I think is a $500 fine and or 30-day jail sentence.
Okay, is everyone familiar with the ordinance? And we can continue on in the next meeting. We need to take formal action. No action today on that?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
And Paul, you did make a couple of, at least one definitional changes too, did you not?
That
You
was
added
definition to the branding iron is not included as an open fire because we've changed it to a unit that uses compressed gas.
I think Paul spent quite a bit of time researching this and consulted some other ordinances, and so it's consistent with what other places are doing around the hills as
We're
well.
also having a discussion with the U.S. Forest Service, what Eric brought up about automatic going into a burn ban, but we haven't really got into that yet. I got a response from the Forest Service and Custer County, but they're open for discussion. So.
I did have a question about the open fire posed to me, open fire for branding. So what changed it? So do we just not permit any open fires? Is that what got changed?
Well, your definition of open fires is not allowed during, high or above.
Right.
But the branding iron with the gas is.
Is, okay. And
So
that's
they
what I
can-
thought was,
gas
it was
grills.
before. That's what I thought it was before, I
Yeah.
guess, so.
And,
Okay.
and so right now, if it's high or above,
Mhm.
you can't use the logs and open fire, but you could use the gas.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so it's more reasonable.
Okay, any more discussion? Any further discussion on this? Otherwise, we will address it again next meeting. Okay, we're not too far off, Bill. We caught up. So if you'd like to come forward, this is a Natural Resource Committee. All right.
Mr. Chairman, my bill gets settled. Bill and Mitch worked on some comments. I did give those to you this morning. They weren't originally included in your binder, and I think Brandon, I have them online as well.
Okay, you have the floor, sir.
All right, well, appreciate you guys letting us come in and visit with you about, you want those handles out? Not yet. We've got a couple projects we're working on. One is called North Sand EA. Rich, if you want to pass them out. I can go this way through. This project's in the throes of, right now, it's a project on the Bear Lodge Ranger District, right on the border of Lawrence County. If you can see the outline there, Lawrence County is on the east side. It's about 11,000 acre project. If you guys know where Sand Creek Country Club is, everything's south of there. And it goes all the way up to the roadless, Sand Creek roadless area. You can see that big bite out of the middle of it. That's the Sand Creek roadless area. And it is now being re-evaluated for possible wilderness designation under the Forest Service's revision. Right now they're going through, they're required to analyze potential wilderness areas in the Black Hills. And Mitch might be able to visit with you guys a little bit more about that later. This project, I should say, it's a good thing that we're seeing some projects because it's been a long time. Forest Service is finally catching up, doing a lot of their NEPA work. They've got quite a few projects on the table at different situations. So it's good to see the Forest Service actually getting back on track because it's been at least 2 years, 2.5 years where we went through a period where they didn't have any NEPA projects. And that's what we saw with the timber sale program really taking a drop. So it's good to see this happen. This project is in some fairly steep ground. It's in that Grand Canyon country. Goes all the way up towards where Rich's property is near 70 Flats. It's just to the west of there. There's been some activity in the past. We've had a boundary fire. What was that, back in 1980s, Rich?
Like that.
Yeah, which was right on that Boundary Gulch area, Beaver Gulch. It's fairly heavily timbered. It's got a lot of very over mature timber in that country. Dugout Gulch, which is a botanical area, has a lot of over mature timber. The Sand Creek area is being managed as late successional and designated roadless. It's got a lot, and as you saw in the project, they've identified 1,100 acres of old growth, late successional old growth conditions in the project. Our somewhat frustrated with the project in that it's 11,000 acres and there's only about 2,100 acres of commercial timber harvesting. It's only 20% of the project area. They eliminated 53, I think I'm doing this from memory, 5,300 acres or thereabouts of steep ground logging from it. And what we've been hearing all along, the Forest Service keeps saying they don't have any timber, they don't have any timber to get except on steep ground. And they had an opportunity to do some steep ground on this and they basically punted. And so that 5,300 has been eliminated from being considered or even analyzed for future possible entry. There's about half the project is have prescribed burning on it, different types of prescribed burning. And I know in my comments or in our comments, we talked about the prescribed burning. I mean, I think prescribed burning, and I think almost all professionals would say it's beneficial as long as it's done in a really well-planned, timely manner. But we've seen a lot of cases in the Black Hills. In fact, Tom Troxel and I were on a prescribed burn on Saturday. We went down to look, and there's a lot of issues there. And the Forest Service seems to be thinking that a lot of the Black Hills National Forest could be prescribed burned, and especially without having any pre-treatments, thinning, pre-commercial thinning. And we've seen the results of that, which aren't really pretty. So, trying to think of what else to tell you. This is what they call preliminary EA. I don't know what usually they used to call draft EA, but this is a preliminary EA. And my understanding is it will be, once it goes through the comments on from the public, it will then go through an objection. No, then they'll have a signature on it by I think it's by the SO, the supervisor, Cochran, and then it'll go through an objection period. This is not like Zeppelin and Camara where they basically didn't have any objections. They used to have appeals, now they have objections. And they have to resolve the objection with the party that's objecting through meetings and stuff. But everybody can sue, and go through the courts, but that's their process, no longer an appeals process. So we are trying to, look at other districts a little bit more, because we've seen what's happened on the forest when they don't get enough inputs, and they're getting input from all the enviros on the one end, and they're not hearing enough from us. And so we believe it's really important to balance those things out. And if you've looked at the North Sand comments, there's a lot of comments from the Norbeck Society, the Sierra Club, the Audubon. There's individuals. They not only comment in groups, they comment individually. And so there's a lot of comments to the contrary of what we're thinking. So I think it's important for us to do as much as we can. which puts a burden on us big time. Right now, I just be honest with you, we worked our butt off to get these to you, and we're gonna be working our butt off going forward on trying to get our, get these comments in. I'll open it up if you guys have any questions. You saw our comments, and they would be coming from you guys officially, the way they are.
I think Commissioner Jennings referenced these at the last meeting, kind of gave you a foreshadowing of the comments. And Bill or Mitch, when is the deadline for these? It's before the next county commission meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. On the site, and Mitch and I were talking about this morning, and Mitch can elaborate, but it's usually 30 days from the posting of the NOI. I mean, posting in the paper, local papers, which, if I remember, was January 27th. And so it would be the February 27th. But when you look on the website, it doesn't give a date. It says, what, NA, right?
Yes.
So
I think something we have to get back to them on the
Yeah.
website is they repeatedly put NA.
But
So
we can go ahead and submit ours, right?
we need to submit them.
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah.
So the old growth you mentioned, was there any management activities on the old growth area?
A little bit, just a little. Under basically what they call under thinnings, where they're taking out ladder fuels and smaller trees and maybe some high risk trees, but for the most part, they'll leave it intact. But to their credit, they did venture, they did send a foot in there, and that's been one of our big issues in the past. If you remember the mountain pine beetle train, Bob and I, we back in Telegraph and everything, we warned them about trying to put this old growth on the shelf, and they lost most of their old growth in the south end and the middle part of the forest, and now they don't have enough. But most of it's in the northern hills and in the Bear Lodge. And so what happens is that then they start looking at, well, we need 5% or whatever it is of the entire forest in old growth. Well, it's not in the south end, not in the middle, so they pile it all into the north end, and that puts us at risk long term. And so, and if you remember the old growth project from the Forest Service, the Washington office, the biggest threat to old growth is not saws, it's fire
and
disease and insects, big time. Harvesting was less than 0.5% of the old growth disturbance over the last 20 years. It's not an issue, but they need to have more management of the old growth, or it's going to disappear just like it did in the Black Hills. And it is disappearing as the old growth project showed. So yeah. But there's a lot of over mature timber in this whole project, and that worries me. And the other thing about it is they talk about the threats to from fire and all that. Well, I put this together, and if you look at it, you can see all the private land to the north and the northwest and the northeast of this. And normally there are big fires like Grizzly Gulch and all the big fires. Their big run is from south to north. And for the south wind, south Chinook, or not Chinook wind, south hot wind, they burn to the north. And the Jasper fire burned 60,000 acres in 2 days, burning from Jewel Cave up through into Moon. And so, Grizzly Gulch started on the south end, burned to the northeast by Deadwood. The old Deadwood fire burned from south to north. So if you look at that, this area is to the south of a whole bunch of private land. And they said that was a big issue. And one thing in the project they said that they don't say, I should say, is they don't tell you the amount of change from the treatments on the reduction of the risk to severe fire anywhere in the project. So anyway, that's what I know.
Do you want to add anything to that?
The only thing I would add is I read through the environmental comments, and there will be a continued push in this, especially this area, of not doing anything in old growth areas. And that means not cutting any small trees, not thinning, which actually increases the threat to old growth. But the comments are very adamant that they want nothing done at all in old growth.
Yeah. And
so, Forest Service spent $50 million analyzing this, and they determined that active management and old growth is much better. And the biggest threat to old growth was being locked up in wilderness or roadless areas. That's where they're losing the old growth.
Yeah.
Because of no management. So just so you know, there were quite a few different groups, national groups as well, commenting.
Okay. Questions?
Just one other comment, we've been hearing about the advantages of prescribed fire for, way back in the last forest plan revision. The Forest Service has never been able to accomplish their objectives on the amount of prescribed burning. And part of that is that, I guess I would say part of that is that they're not willing to do the pre-fire treatments to keep those fires down to a low intensity level. And so then they do get away from it. And it burns a lot of good timber too. So fire can be an effective use, but it's part of it to manage, but it's not just strike a match. And when you look back at the hills 150 years ago, they did burn frequently, but it kept those finer fuels burned off then, and the intensity wasn't there. So it's just a big challenge for them to do that without any pre-commercial or pre-fire treatments.
Do you have a letter put together that we can?
I just have the letter that I got this morning that I gave you. I don't know, it looks to me like the comments, they prefer to have the comments submitted online via their portal, and I can do that. I would then be apparently the point of contact. Do you want me to be the point of contact?
Yeah, I think that'd be appropriate.
I don't know, does it have to be on letterhead? It says Lawrence County, and it would be submitted under my name. I could certainly put it on letterhead. It'll take me a while to do that.
I was gonna, because I was looking at that, posting it, but it does open up Lawrence County to being evaluated by other groups, and I just soon fly under the radar sometime and just send it to them directly. I mean, you're not required to put it online.
No.
They just would like it online.
It's the preferred method.
Yeah, and I don't know, we can think about it, you guys can do what you want, but I find it really interesting going through other people's comments that are online and seeing where they're looking. And so if we weren't online, at least till the end, kind of fly under the radar until it's posted.
Okay.
Anyway, just a thought.
Because all of the comments become public at some
time. But if we post it right now.
So they're available as submitted.
Yeah, as submitted, yes. And so, just a thought.
Mm-hmm. It's not a bad strategy.
Okay.
So I would move that we submit the comments as presented on the North Sands project to the Forest Service in the traditional sense.
And Mr. Chairman, would you want to have put on letterhead and have the chairman sign it, or just submit it as is?
I would intend for these to come from Lawrence County, so on the letterhead with the chairman's signature.
Okay, I'll second it for further discussion.
I've just gotten the look.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further comments, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you both for putting
Yes. Well, and Tom, I got a handout to Tom Troxel too. He helped quite a bit. He's a valuable source. So we spent almost all day Saturday together looking at prescribed burning.
So just let me know when you've got it ready.
Yeah, I was going to go over. We do have one other project we're looking at. I'm waiting for information mainly GIS information from the Forest Service on Sawbuck. It's a very large project. I was gonna hand out these maps.
It's on the agenda too for discussion.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh. If you look at it, Rochford is basically the northeast corner. So this project goes all the way from the, basically Rapid Creek, by, Black Fox area, all the way to the east. I forgot how many acres, was it 30?
134,000.
Yeah, 134,000 acres, which is huge.
About a tenth of the forest,
Yeah,
roughly.
it's about half of the district of the Mystic Ranger District. They're looking for scoping comments, and in the past, and it's up to you guys, but in the past, we've just put scoping comments because it's not hugely important. It's just concerns, and we've done it out of the Natural Resource Committee. We can certainly run it through you guys if you want, but it's just, right now, we're in the scoping end of it. And it's 100% of that whole project is being deemed for prescribed burning, believe it or not, the whole project. I think, what was it, 5,000 acres of timber?
Something like that.
I think, yeah, 5,000, or I think it's less than that, but it's being proposed for commercial harvesting. Out of 130,000, only 5,000. It's very small.
There's a lot of junk timber out of it. It's a big mess.
There is, and it needs to be treated one way or another. There is in there that don't have any commercial timber. There is in there that escaped for one reason or another, mountain pine beetle. It's heavily stocked, and you have a mix and match. That's one of the things that we've asked for is, and they haven't been able to provide it, is give us an idea of how much of the overstock timber is there and how much of it is in the, it has been pretty much decimated by mountain pine beetle. How much of it's in hardwoods and that type of thing. But without that data, we can't give very good comments.
So you don't know if the overstocked areas are in the timber sale areas?
Nope. Nope, we don't.
Would like to add that there's 4 counties, that this just popped up on the SOPA, which is the Forest Service public announcement site of projects. And if they would have worked with all the various counties, they'd had a better handle on this project with the information that the various counties could provide. So that's a coordination issue.
Yeah, it's we still need to address the issue with our relationship with the Black Hills National Forest. It's not good. And we need to figure out, and hopefully under the new administration, they'll get, and actually, kudos to Senator Rounds with the new efforts that he is. It's going to put pressure on them, and I believe they're going to have to change their attitude towards us.
I sure hope
so. Because it's not healthy the way it is. So like Mitch said, we weren't even told about this, and all of a sudden you got a 130,000 acre project sitting in front of you. And then there's other projects.
But on the good side, Steve Pozell has, he's been the district ranger on the, what is it, Zeppelin project, has been better to work with. And there's been some improvement there. And they're looking at working with landowners on joint projects, which I think is so critical. And this project you've got 134,000 acres, and the only other player they mention is the tribes on that land north of Deerfield that they did the co-management. And there's no discussion about all the other inholdings of land. And it's always been my pitch is there's NRCS and a lot of different programs where they can actually spend federal money on private land to work together. So I think it would be a good idea to continue to push that.
So anyway, that's where we're at with Sawbuck.
Well, thanks for being on top of it.
Yeah. So
did you want to just hand this out?
Yeah, you can go ahead and pass them.
This we don't have to go through all these projects, but this is just what's on the Forest Service public website as far as projects. Some of them are small and some of them are large. And probably the largest is the forest plan revision, which it sounds like they're going to start scoping this summer on it, the public scoping. But
yeah,
just a quick summary.
It's going to be getting, and I guess that's at least from my end of it. There's a lot of work ahead of us, and I want to make sure that what we're doing, you guys want us to continue this work, because I'm certainly not going to do it for my own health, because it's been pretty tough, and it's going to get tougher, and we're going to need all the help we can get to do the work that's ahead of us on these projects, and then also the work that's going to be required to do the Black Hills Forest Plan. If we're going to do it the right way, it's going to take a lot of work. And it's going to take involvement from the county commissioners and from our natural resource committee. And we're going to need everybody's efforts. So that's where I'm at. I want to hear what you guys think about whether we need to do this. I mean, sometimes I need to hear that you think the work we're doing is worth it.
It's important.
Very important.
Okay.
Very important.
Okay. Because sometimes I feel the other way, so I just need to hear that.
This particular discussion wasn't on the agenda, so I'll keep it limited. But I think in the past, Bill, didn't you have a contract for professional services for preparing some of these comments? I think maybe Mitch does too.
I don't.
No, but that's kind of what you're thinking about, right?
No, I'm not looking at that end of it. That was a real special project.
Okay.
That didn't have anything to do with these projects.
Okay.
But
I didn't know, so I'm trying to give that open.
Yeah, and Mitch is representing the counties and doing a really good job.
I just from my perspective, like I'll just give you an example. I'm not sure about Bill, but like one project, the Chimera prop, I think I spent 75 hours on it, and I'm not even doing the forestry stuff. So that was one project, and like this Sawbuck project could be very similar. And as far as the forest plan, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that, and I don't mind doing it if it's appreciated. I don't mind it at all. We just need to know is it worth getting into these details. But when you look at the environmental comments on some of these projects, you can see how they get sidetracked. With the forest plan revision, I would have to say that Wyoming is a very, very powerful ally. And I saw that with the old growth effort, which was scrapped. I think it really behooves us to spend time coordinating with Crook and Weston County and the state of Wyoming. They really been helpful, and with the old growth effort, and also with the forest plan on the Black Hills, they have a lot of interest. So just the coordination and what are you guys saying? What are you guys doing? That kind of thing is important.
One of the, along with that, and I agree with everything with what Mitch said, is that the state of Wyoming has made a commitment through their Wyoming Forestry Division to actively become good neighbor authority. And a lot of the prep work on this, and they're doing it somewhat before, I mean, putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but they are actively putting the timber sales together for the Forest Service on North Sand. They're doing a lot of that work. And so far, the Forest Service has not been really willing to get very deeply involved with the state of South Dakota on doing good neighbor authority. But I know from talking with the state forester, they would like to do more, but they haven't been able to. And there's a bunch of issues underlying that. But the state of Wyoming has done a lot of good work over on across the line on good neighbor authority sales. They're doing, I don't know how much, but they're doing a big chunk of the prep work, marking and everything. So we'll get out of your hair. Thanks for letting us visit.
We appreciate everything, guys. Thank you.
Pretty frightening.
Yeah, lots
Well,
to
it is.
digest,
That is.
very much.
No, I think our responsibility is to the private land, private in holdings in the county. And the Forest Service actions have a direct effect on those in holdings.
Okay, our next item is the Deadwood Economic Development. We've got a letter put together in support of House Bill 1081, which is the severance tax. What?
Party favors here.
These are promotional educational coins that we had made that has a QR code on the back that links you to the mineral severance tax video that you've already seen. So if you want some more to share, let me know. Do you want me to sit here? Morning.
Mr. Chairman, we did, in your packet, there is a draft resolution of support you have in front of you as well, and I think that's what will be referenced.
I'm gonna take it away. Good morning. I think you have the materials. You've seen the video. You have the one pager in front of you. We're happy to say that we have 7 representatives, including all 3 of our District 31 representatives, signed on to sponsor this bill, which is really great. We went to Pierre for Lead and Deadwood Day, and we're talking about this bill with a lot of the representatives, and had some really good questions and some really good support come out of that. And so we are here today hoping that you'll sign off on the resolution that Bruce has prepared, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I should add, I didn't really do much work on that resolution. It was submitted to me in a very good form, so I can't get credit. It was well done.
Well, I think it looks great.
I'll move to accept or to adopt resolution 2511 with the typo corrected at the top. So it's Lorraine County, not Lawrence County.
Yeah, indeed. My contribution, my little contribution, and I screwed it up.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
I was going to sign it, but Eric screwed that
I'll
up.
get you corrected one right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'd be happy to have any other support that you guys can offer, and I can get with Bruce on what that might look like. But this is a big deal, and we'll make sure that you're aware of when it gets scheduled. Hopefully, we'll get it on the schedule today. Be in touch.
And kudos to getting all District 31
Robin, on
representatives.
your new title.
If you want
Yeah, that worked out very well for us.
I'll get somebody a copy of the resolution so you have it. Does it make sense? Or if you want me to do something with it, let me know, but I'll get that corrected right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Yep.
Have a good day.
Okay, we also decided to add, for further discussion on, another piece of legislation.
60-10,
Pardon?
60-10.
Looks like this.
Yeah.
Here's some.
Give Bruce a couple seconds to get back.
I might add that Steve Kozel is very easy to work with, a good guy to work with. The guy that's in charge down the country isn't so good. He is gonna go along with too many other things with what Bill and Mitch are doing. Like they won't be able to talk to him and get anything done with it.
No, it's, Steve is on the same page as we are. He's, been, good to have in the community.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the say so. He's just a background man.
Well, yeah, most of these decisions are have been being moved to Washington is part of the issue. And hopefully, with the different change administration, that will start to alleviate itself.
Get Doge in there, yeah.
We're trying to
For
work
your-
on the cooperative agency status from
thing.
the top end down instead of the bottom end down.
Our last item here on the agenda is discussion and possible action on House concurrent resolution 6010. I can start off the discussion with, I think it's a very dangerous resolution, and I would like to certainly encourage us to oppose it. And I don't think it would be out of line to draft a letter to send off right away to that effect. What's the rest of your feeling on it?
I think we need to keep local control.
I would agree. I would also suggest that this, well, it's sponsored by one of our legislators who may not be quite in touch with attitudes on local control and other things that are kind of tantamount to what a party should be and what it is. You see a reach by, and I'll say peer, and people that maybe don't have as big a stake in the community because they didn't grow up here, that are putting a lot of effort into contesting decisions made by other duly elected folks that have home at heart. But I think it's important, it's very important for us as county commissioners to send a message on this piece of legislation sponsored by one particular individual that says local control should be locally controlled.
Well, we can do a motion to put together a letter of opposition.
I make a motion to send formally a letter of opposition to this, to House Concurrent Resolution 6010, to draft one signed by chairman. I would sign it as a commissioner, if you want to have the whole commission sign it, if everybody's in favor of it.
Yeah, be good.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. What else? Need a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Is that what you guys
Yeah.
pop back in for?
Thank you.
We hope to see some discontent from you folks too.
Yeah, yeah.
Please,
All right,
yeah.
thank you. Okay, we are
That's
down to
interesting.
items from the public. Do we have anyone in the body of the audience or online at this time that has any public comments they'd like to make at this time? I will remind folks, if they do, this is not an agenda item, so all we can do is sit here and patiently listen. Is there anyone online? Not seeing anything. How about in the body of the room?
Everybody looks at you.
One more time. Anyone online would like to make any public comment? Okay. Seeing none, and none in the room, we'll close that one and go to items from the commissioners. Anyone on the board have any comments for today?
I don't think I do.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd just make an observation. We got in our non-agenda correspondence, we got the letter from Wyoming about closing their solid waste. And I think that's a requirement of adjacent. I know it through DANR, I think, and that's, so it's just notification that they're closing it, but more crop disposing their solid waste. So just
About 1610. Pardon?
Oh, yeah, we want to draft a letter, we'll also- Uh, Anyone
So we
else?
should probably do that sooner than later in case it gets agended up on the House Ag.
I'm gonna draft a letter,
Yes.
okay?
Well, we're all gonna have to come up here and
You're
sign it.
sure as they don't want me to do it.
Which I don't know really what to say on that.
A strongly worded letter about local control.
Adamantly oppose.
It's not local control, right? I mean, I don't,
Right.
I got a funny feeling that I say that because I think you're gonna have more thoughts than I have, other than we adamantly oppose that. So if you have any other things you want to include, we can get ahead of the game. You can give them to me now. And does it make sense? Because I don't know what else to say. It just sounds like nonsense to me. But
Well, it is, and I think that I don't think it has to be a real thought or developed. It's mostly the fact that the local officials are the ones that best know the area and most understand where development should occur, any kind of development, and that should remain in the local governments.
The ones that make those decisions week in and week out.
Are we concerned about a local resident coming up with this, or leave that
Well, that's
alone?
the other.
Okay. Any
I think that he'll get the
further
message.
comments from board members before we adjourn today?
I think we gotta be concerned about, everybody around the area is concerned about taxes and that. And I think if there's some things that we can do to help reduce it, then we should do it. And that, but down here, there's a big discrepancy of, the amount of time some of the people up in the hills, have, people rent their places. They just build them here to re-rent them and that. And if they couldn't do that as much, why there wouldn't be as much building going on.
Yeah, we've had that discussion quite often about, we can't really get our arms wrapped around vacation rentals and that stuff this time. You're right, very right.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think they're all being taxed at the non-owner occupied rate. And so other than having state law change, I don't know if there's anything that can be done from our point of view. You know, you're
It
kind of.
appears there's quite a bit of legislation going on about all that right now, so.
And,
Should change.
yeah, we don't want to crawl into the hole trying to regulate them or anything like that, or try to charge them $100 a year.
That's a
fee.
full-time, multi-person office enforcement thing.
Pennington's kind of messing around with it, and let them.
That's a tough one, Richard. Anything further, sir?
No, that's all.
Anybody else?
We gotta, excuse me, I did have down there, we gotta be concerned about the water. And that's gonna be more and more of a problem all the time for us. And more building up in the hills higher up, why that reduced the amount of water that goes to these people on down beyond here and that, so.
Yeah, we're all down at that end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, we got a lot of things to keep in mind and be mindful of. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Okay, we're adjourned. Bruce, we could kind of hang here for a few minutes if that's something you could do easily.
A half hour or
Conference
whatever.
will
We don't
now
want
be
that.
recorded.